Shereen Williams of the Star-Telegram, and I'm here with Clarence Hill, the dapper-dressed Clarence Hill. We're back at Frankie's, have some wings, and talk some football. Clarence, we're getting ready to go to training camp, and Mother Nature was nice enough to bring us some California weather to Texas to kind of get us ready, but we got a few days here, and then we're going to get this weather full-time for about 3.5 weeks. As we go into training camp, there's a lot of things we're going to be watching. We're going to be watching Romo's back, Jason Garrett, possibly his last training camp if they can't get it done this year. We've got a new play caller, third time in 3 years that we've got a new play caller. We've got a new defensive coordinator, third one in 3 years yet again. Of all those things, and maybe I'm missing some things, what are you most interested in seeing in this training camp?
Well, certainly how the defense develops. I mean, the Cowboys had the worst defense in the league last year, one of the worst in league history, and one of the worst in team history last year. And you look at what they lost from last year's defense. You lose a DeMarcus Ware, and they let him go on free agency. You lose a Jason Hatcher, was probably your best player on defense, and then in the offseason program, they lost their best player coming back, and Sean Lee, and they really did not replace them with any proven performers. That's the thing about this defense. They have bodies, and they're younger, they're healthier, they're supposed to be healthier, at least the Cowboys hope so, but they're not any proven performers. And really, you want to see how this defense can gel and take to the coaching of new coordinator Rob Marinelli, because on paper, they're not better than they were last year. The Cowboys are hoping that they can be better, hoping that Marinelli will coach them up for them to be better. If the defense is not better, the Cowboys won't be better. Actually, that 8-8 everybody's complaining about could go easily to 4-12.
I tell you, the one key player I'm looking forward to seeing, and he better step up if this defense is going to be better, and that's Bruce Carter. He is supposed to lead the team in tackles. He didn't do that last year, got benched last year. We know that San Diego game really struggled, but they've changed some things for him. They've changed the travel rules for him. He's going to be more like Derek Brooks. I'm not saying he's Derek Brooks, but he's going to be more like Derek Brooks in the scheme, and that the 3 technique, who they hope is Henry Melton, is going to protect him a little bit and take on some of those blocks, so he's that second level, can get in there and hopefully make those tackles. But to me, he is the key player on that defense. When you talk about other players, Mo Claiborne and some of those guys too, who are you most interested in seeing on that defense?
Well, Henry Melton.
Yeah.
I mean, Bruce Carter, certainly, they've tailored the defense for him to lead the team in tackles. But Henry Melton is former Pro Bowler in Chicago. The Cowboys are gambling and really betting that he can come and be a Pro Bowl performer on that defensive line. He's the one guy who has, I guess if he has some sort of pedigree, the problem, again, he's coming off of knee surgery that knocked him out of auto last season, but they need him to be that anchor in the middle. There's no anchor on that defensive line, that defensive front, not at end, not at tackle. They need Henry Melton to be that guy, and the Cowboys are gambling on that Henry Melton can be that guy. For his sake, there's money out there. He has a modest salary this year, but if he plays well, the big money's out there for him in the following couple of years with the Cowboys, and they will keep him on the roster. They need Henry Melton to be a big-time player in this defense.
Couple of things we're going to look at on offense. I think the key thing, though, is Tony Romo's back and how that really holds up. And now we know they've cut Kyle Orton, they've cut ties with him, moved on. Brandon Whedon is going to be the backup to Tony Romo. But, Romo actually got more work this offseason than he did last offseason. But how do you think that back's going to hold up, and how do you think he's going to do this season with that back? Is it going to be a problem for him at all?
I don't think so. I mean, he came up back surgery last year. He didn't have any time in the offseason, really. He really came into camp out of shape and had one of the best seasons of his career with 31 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, and really had a remarkable performance in that final game against the Redskins in which he hurt the back that helped the Cowboys win the game. I think he's going to come out fine because he has done some stuff. He's ahead of schedule in training camp. Now, the only issue is he's 34. He's his second back surgery in as many seasons, and he's going to take a poundage. Football is a physical game. He's going to get hit. Things could happen. The question is, if things do happen, it's something has to miss a game or two, do you trust Brandon Whedon to be the guy to come in and be a backup quarterback, to come in and step in and win games for the Cowboys? They really had confidence that Kyle Orton could do that because of his pedigree. Whedon has none of that.
Talk about breakout players a little bit. There's a number of players on this team. As you said earlier, they don't really have many of those high profile players. They have a few of them. We know the Jason Wittens, We know the Des Bryants and we know the Tony Romos, but you know, outside of those guys, they really don't have those name players. But they do have some players that could have breakout years this year. And we know who they are. There's 5 or 6 of them. We mentioned Bruce Carter earlier, Terrence Williams. I mean, there's a number of them. For me, I think it's Terrence Williams. I expect him to come in and as that number 2 receiver really take over for Miles Austin and have a great year this year. And he had a really good rookie season, better than most rookie receivers have. And I expect him to really step up. Is there a player maybe on defense that you think will be that breakout player, whether it's a Mo Claiborne or a Tyrone Crawford or one of those guys?
The Cowboys themselves, most of the teammates are touting Tyrone Crawford. They really thought Tyrone Crawford would come to the forefront last year, and he got hurt the first day of training camp, tearing his Achilles. And he was out all season. He's been chomping at the bit to get back out there. He's talking to Romo, some other players who watched him in the offseason program. And they said if there's a guy to watch, it's Tyrone Crawford. And the good thing about him, he will be alternating snaps with Henry Melton in the middle. At that 3 technique, they will probably be on the field together on pass rushing downs to rush from the inside. They need him to be a big player. He seems poised to really they have a lot of potential. You know, when they drafted him out of Boise State, they thought a lot of him. Again, they thought he was going to come to play, and that would come to bear last year. They're hoping he has that breakout performance this year.
Scott Linehan's going to be the new offensive coordinator. I guess technically he doesn't have that title, but he is going to be the play caller and the passing game coordinator for this offense. And in theory, he is the coordinator of this offense. It's going to be his offense. I didn't see a whole lot of changes in the offseason with this offense. I do expect him to probably run the ball a little bit more. That really hasn't been something he has done, but I think they will with this offensive line and the way DeMarco Murray finished last season. And if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to have a really good year. What do you see with Linehan and maybe some of the things we saw in the offseason that you think might be different with this offense?
Well, you know, the thing about Linehan, which he's known to do in the past, whether it was in Detroit or Minnesota or some other places, he gets the ball to his playmakers. If it's to his top playmakers, he's able to scheme to get the ball to his playmakers. You know, you saw last year in the Cowboys game was Detroit when he really got the ball to Megatron. And that's something that, you know, we talked about Dez about last year and the last couple of years, that there are games when he goes and doesn't see the ball. There are games when, as great as he has been and the numbers he's put up, there are times when he disappears when they don't get him the ball. Well, that won't happen under Linehan. He's going to get Dez Bryant the ball, and he's going to make a point to getting Dez Bryant the ball. And the same thing with DeMarco Murray. Look for DeMarco Murray to have a big year.
We can't leave here without talking about Jason Garrett's future. 8-8, 8-8, 8-8 the last 3 years, and they've, to me, kind of fooled themselves into thinking they're really close because they did get to the last game each of those 3 years before losing and being ousted from the playoffs. 5-3 after he took over from Wade Phillips, so he's 2 games over 500 in his career. He's a lame duck coach. He's in his last year of his contract. In my mind, Jerry's not going to bring him back unless they make the playoffs, and I really think they need to come out of this with a good training camp to kind of set the tone a little bit. Do you agree with that? Do you think that really the pressure is on him right now to get this thing done and get to the playoffs? Is there a chance he'll be back if they don't get to the playoffs?
There's no way he comes back if they don't make the playoffs. You know, he has to make the playoffs, and I think make a run in the playoffs. You just can't back in with an 8-8 record and sell that anymore. The Cowboy fans are jaded. They're tired. You know, they're tired of the mediocrity. Certainly, he says the right things. You know, wanting to have the right kind of guys and play with passion, emotion, enthusiasm. We're all processed out. Everybody's processed out. He needs to make it happen.
Yeah, no question. I'm Shireen Williams, and this is Clarence Hill. And from Frankie's, we appreciate you joining us. We'll be at training camp for the next 3.5 weeks, so please join us, starttelegram.com.